online audience, our offline audience, our members, the board of trustees, and everyone, our partners, our prayer partners, our financial partners, everyone who has made Orista indeed. My name is Matthew Barry. I'm the International Coordinator of Orista Leaders Club. Recall Orista Leaders Club is all about developing young people, is raising leaders for posterity. Our vision is to see transform and upright leader being installed in all tiers of government. Today, we'll be looking at a topic, how to cultivate your leadership ethics. Here with me is Apostle Dr. Charles Wade. Is the Senior Pastor General Pastor of Grace Herald Ministry with several branches across the nation, Nigeria, with the headquarters church in Lagos. Today we'll be meeting with Apostle Charles, who will be telling us how to cultivate your leadership ethics. Like ethics is a moral principle, that govern what you do, govern your behavior and your conduct in what you do. So in leadership, there are some levels of ethics, there are values and principles that is expected for a leader to deliver leadership good, to be effective as a leader. Hello, Sir Apostle. You can just introduce yourself.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here, and thank you for the opportunity. As Reverend Matthew has rightly introduced, I am Apostle A.U. Charles, the Senior Pastor of Grace Herald Ministry International, and we bless God for an avenue to deliberate on this topic. It's a topic I also look forward to, and I'm glad for the privilege to be sharing my thoughts and my views about it. Thank you for the honor.
Thank you very much. So today, while we are coming up with this topic, we discover that everybody talks about leadership.
Yeah.
In the body of Christ, in politics, across various sectors. We need people, leaders across various sectors. Yet every day, people are being promoted, elected, ordained, or anyhow come into leadership. Yet we have this leadership vehicle, and yet people still talking about leadership. What do you think is the missing link?
All right.
As we discuss on how do you cultivate, ethics is a principle that governs, human behavior and conduct.
Yeah.
So how do you cultivate this principle that will govern me as a person, so that in my discharging my duty across various sectors or wherever I'm being position, should be able to get that done?
All right, thank you very much. I want to start by the first question you're asking between. What's the missing link in leadership? And before we look into how do we develop a leadership ethics, the first thing I observe about leadership is that we usually narrow down leadership to people who are holding position, forgetting that life itself requires leadership. And because of that, it seems as if everyone had forgotten that our everyday life, you wake up in the morning, all right, and you walk up from your bed. That's you leading yourself, all right. Certain times you have certain vices, or you have reason to want to stay in your bed and sleep for the rest of the day, but you have to compel yourself to get up to go to work. That's leading. So it means that we by default, the human system is meant to be a leadership lifestyle before being called to administrate over others. So however, because of that failure of understanding that, people who are called to leadership position seem to be taking unawares, seem to assume it unprepared, because they were not already leading before they started to lead. So because the most effective leadership is the one that begins with the leadership of oneself. The ability to lead ourselves is what we refer to as character. Because you find out that you will keep influencing yourself and adjusting yourself and programming yourself. All right. So people who lack the ability to lead themselves, all right, we certainly lack the ability to lead others. So by the time we put people who couldn't lead themselves to lead other people, we're going to have a disastrous result at the end of the day. And that's part of the failure of leadership we have. People who cannot control their vices, who cannot control their urges, cannot control their weaknesses, who cannot control their natural negative incline. So that anything that comes, they fall for it. So they are not in charge of themselves. Then when you now put them in position, they also become ruled and influenced by their position. Leadership can also be described as the power of influence, or the ability to influence. So you cannot influence others if you have not influenced yourself, if you are not an influence. So that's the first missing link I see in leadership. So when it comes to developing and cultivating leadership ethics, I think it will also start from correcting that void. And so many things are needed in effecting and cultivating leadership ethics. One of the first things to recognize is to face reality. The reality is the fact that we are all human. Nobody is more human than the other. All right. So we are all on earth by privilege. So if you are now called to lead people, you should first recognize that it is a privilege. All right. That will humble our hearts to want to serve. But when we see it as a title, we don't want to serve. When we see it as an entitlement, we don't want to serve. When we see our leadership position as a privilege, then we assume it with the heart of service. It's when we assume with the heart of service that we start to run our leadership duty with a sense of vision, with a sense of purpose. And then when there's a sense of purpose, there's sure to be delivery. There's sure to be perfection at the end of the day. But so one of the first leadership ethics to be cultivated is the heart of service. And the heart of service comes with a recognition of the purpose of leadership, and that purpose of leadership is also become better in us when we recognize that we are privileged to serve. So it is that heart of service that drives us to want to make impact. If we do not have the heart of service, we don't care about impact. So we found out that there's something common. I was doing a personal research recently. I don't know whether I've had that discussion with you before. I looked at certain leadership discharge or display in church and in politics. All right, and I was trying to trace why is I don't know if what I'm saying right now we apply to Nigeria or every part of the world. I was trying to trace the attitude, the prevailing attitude of leadership among politicians, and of course, by extension, pastors in some quarters. And I realized that there was something responsible, because I looked at 3 tiers of leadership: religious leadership, political leadership, and traditional leadership. All right, religious leadership has a different means by which it is assumed. All right, we say that one is called of God. Political leadership in this part of the world is either by appointment or by democratic election. The traditional leadership happens by inheritance. So because it is by inheritance, it comes with that sense of, because I am the heir to the throne, okay, I am going to be the next king. Now that sense does not, even if whatever I do, nobody can stop me from being the next king. So one can be irresponsible, one just feels that it can't be taken from me. I'm going to be dirty at that. So there's some, if one is not disciplined, all right, one can take it for granted. Now I'm seeing a flow of that style of leadership spilling over to political and religious style of leadership. So I'm realizing that there's also the attitude of the traditional leadership in a part of the world also spilling over political and religious leadership. Example, traditional leaders, let me use this part of the world, all right, in the western part of Nigeria, all right, the traditional rulers seem to have the final say. They seem to be unquestionable people. All right, you see, they are called KBAC. If I'm not wrong, it simply means who can question you or who can challenge you. All right, so that attitude is spilling into our political sphere and religious sphere, of where leaders do things and not care the consequences because they feel they cannot be questioned. All right, and that is a corruption in itself. Okay, so that style is, if we're going to cultivate proper leadership ethics, we're going to correct that. Leaders have to be accountable. So it's not only the subject that must be accountable to leaders. Leaders also have to have a sense of accountability. That's what's going to carry me to another discussion, which is the area of what I may call flow of leadership. The flow of leadership is the sense where whoever is a leader does not become an island, does not become someone who has the finance. He must have a sense of accountability. Even if you're a founder of a church, all right, and everybody in that church reports to you, you must have someone you are accountable to, all right, or someone that ordained you. So sure that you didn't just assume leadership. There was a flow that there's a flow that you are under. When I was doing my personal research on church history, I love what I saw there. I saw the flow of the early apostle. I saw the flow from Jesus to the early apostle. All right, the early apostle to what we call the church fathers. All right, I saw the continuous flow that even before the Protestant church began, and Protestant is not just Luther. Protestant came out from the prevailing Catholic system. So up to date, I'm saying that there's been consistency of flow. So that flow must also reflect in our leadership expressions. That if you are a leader today, we want to know where is your roots, where are you from, who taught you, where did you train, where did you learn? All right. So that and if you have been taught, are you still submissive to the system that trained you? It is important. So, but that sense of independence in leadership, all right, has been one of the bane of corruption in leadership. All right, and that's where another area I feel must also be corrected when it comes to leadership ethics. So an ethic must be the ethic of accountability or submission. All right, where a leader, because I realize as Christians, I realize that the natural man can by default be rebellious, all right, arrogant and unruly, if not curtailed. So in leadership, if one is not careful, all of this attitude can spill out if one does not have a sense of accountability. So I think one of the strongest ethic in leadership that must be contained is that sense of accountability. And that sense of accountability helps to ensure self-control, all right, and also help to build values. Another thing that leaders must be conscious of, all right, is the consciousness or the desire to leave a mark or to be known for certain things, to be a person of value. Value is not only about the money you have, but the things people can learn from you. So when you see that being a leader, you must be a person that people can learn from. You want to cultivate certain character value that people can emulate. Maybe that's just a wrap I can give to it at a stretch.